The old Victorian house stood on a hill, a sentinel against the fading light. Its silhouette, sharp and imposing, was a familiar sight to those who traveled the lonely highway. Most saw only an architectural oddity, a relic from a bygone era. They never truly looked, never truly felt the weight of the secrets it harbored. This house, perched above the Bates Motel, was more than just a structure of wood and stone. It was a tomb, a monument to a twisted love, and a cage for a mind slowly unraveling. The air around it always felt still, heavy with unspoken histories, a quiet hum of something deeply wrong beneath the surface. For years, the legend of Mrs. Bates had lingered, a chilling whisper carried on the wind. But the real horror was far more insidious, far more entwined with the unassuming man who ran the motel below. Inside the house, dust motes danced in the slivers of light that pierced the heavy drapes. The furniture was draped in white sheets like ghosts awaiting a wake. Every object held a memory, every shadow a potential specter. But it was the parlor, with its worn armchair and the faint scent of mothballs, that felt most alive, most suffocating. Here, Norman would sit, sometimes for hours, lost in conversations only he could hear. He wasn't alone, not truly. Mother was always there, a pervasive presence, a voice in his head that shaped his every thought, his every fear, his every decision. Her influence wasn't just a memory, it was a living, breathing entity, a dark puppeteer pulling his strings, distorting his reality. The line between himself and Mother had blurred long ago, becoming a monstrous shared identity. Below the imposing house, the Bates Motel offered a deceptively mundane facade. A handful of rooms, a flickering neon sign, and the ever-present quiet hospitality of Norman Bates. Travelers, weary from the road, saw only a convenient stop, a clean bed. They never suspected the true nature of their host, or the watchful eyes from the house above. Norman was a diligent innkeeper, almost excessively so, his shyness often mistaken for genuine kindness. But beneath that veneer of politeness, a storm brewed, fueled by Mother's constant pronouncements. Every new guest was a potential disruption, a source of anxiety, and for some, an unwitting participant in the dark play unfolding on the hill. The motel was a trap, a meticulously maintained stage for Mother's dark theatrics. The townspeople, few and far between, rarely spoke of the Bates house. It was an unspoken agreement, a silent pact to ignore the strange goings-on. They knew of Mrs. Bates's sudden decline, her isolation, and Norman's devotion, but the details were murky, obscured by whispers and assumptions. No one truly understood the depth of the tragedy, the suffocating grip Mother had exerted on Norman even before her death. The stories were vague, hinting at an overprotective matriarch and a skin desperate for her approval. They spoke of a life stifled, a spirit crushed under the weight of an unnatural bond. These fragmented memories, these half-truths, only served to deepen the unsettling mystique of the Bates family, creating a local legend steeped in sorrow and unspoken dread. Room 1, the closest to the office, was rarely rented. It was kept meticulously clean, almost pristine, a silent monument to Mother's exacting standards. Sometimes, late at night, a faint light could be seen through its drawn curtains, and the faint sound of movement, as if someone was preparing it for a guest who would never truly arrive. It was in this room, or rather the room's perception within Norman's fractured mind, that the worst of Mother's influence manifested. It became a place of imagined confrontation, a stage for the dark deeds Mother demanded, a psychological landscape where her will was law. The room itself was innocent, but in Norman's mind, twisted by Mother's control, it held a sinister purpose. Mother's love was a weapon, a chain, a suffocating blanket that wrapped around Norman, preventing him from ever truly breaking free. Her voice, a constant presence in his mind, dictated his actions, praised his obedience, and condemned his perceived transgressions. She had always been possessive, but in death, her control became absolute, a phantom limb he could never sever. This wasn't just a boy's attachment to his mother. It was a profound psychological fusion, a complete absorption of one identity into another. He was her extension, her instrument, her loyal son carrying out her dark desires. This twisted devotion, born from isolation and a pathological bond, was the true horror, far more terrifying than any supernatural specter. The chill that permeated the Bates Motel wasn't just the night air. It was the unseen presence, the constant threat of Mother's influence, always lurking, always watching. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of leaves outside seemed to carry her judgment. Norman lived in a perpetual state of anxiety, a puppet dancing to a silent, sinister tune. The horror wasn't something that manifested with a jump scare. It was a slow, creeping dread, an understanding that beneath the surface of this quiet man, a monstrous entity lay dormant, waiting for the opportune moment to assert its will. And as long as the house stood on the hill, and as long as Norman breathed, Mother would never truly be gone. She was the shadow, the whisper, the unseen hand guiding the terror that still lingered at the Bates Motel.